All right, let's dive right in today.
Ugh.
We're tackling the Bhagavad Gita.
Oh, an epic choice.
Definitely epic. And to kick things off, we're starting with Chapter 1, The Distress of Arjuna.
Setting the scene right away. I like it.
Well, you can't understand the distress without the context, right?
Absolutely. The backdrop is everything.
So picture this, the plains of Kurukshetra. Two massive armies locked in a standoff, about to erupt into a battle that could change the course of history.
Not just any armies, though. These are families pitted against each other.
That's right. We're talking cousins, uncles, even teachers ready to fight to the death. On one side, you have the Kauravas, led by King Duryodhana, a figure known for his ambition and, well, let's say, flexible morals.
And on the other side, the Pandavas, figures like Arjuna, known for their righteousness and warrior skill. It's a moral and familial conflict all rolled into one.
Talk about a tangled web. And within this chaos, we have our main player, Arjuna, one of the greatest warriors of his time, riding into the battlefield alongside his charioteer, Krishna.
Ah, Krishna. He's not just any charioteer, is he? This is where the story takes a cosmic turn.
Exactly. He's an avatar, a manifestation of the divine in human form.
His presence adds another layer to the conflict, a spiritual dimension that goes beyond the immediate political struggle.
So imagine the scene, two armies ready to clash, family versus family, and a divine being witnessing it all.
The tension must be palpable.
It is. Now, as Krishna steers the chariot between the two armies, Arjuna gets a look at his opponents, and something unexpected happens.
He falters.
He does. Instead of warrior's fire, he's overcome by despair.
And it's not fear, right? He's one of the bravest warriors around.
You got it. What cripples Arjuna is seeing his own kin on the other side. The very people he's supposed to fight are those he's bound to by love and duty.
That's heavy, the weight of responsibility, the potential for bloodshed, the violation of sacred bonds.
It's a moral crisis. He questions the point of victory achieved at such a terrible cost. He'd rather die, he says, than win by shedding the blood of his family.
Powerful stuff. And he actually lays down his bow, refusing to fight. That's where Chapter 1 leaves us. A warrior paralyzed not by the enemy's strength, but by the weight of his conscience.
A cliffhanger of epic proportions. We're left wondering what path Krishna will guide him towards. Does he advocate for pacifism? Does he push Arjuna to fulfill his duty as a warrior?
Lots of questions, and luckily we have a whole text to unpack those answers. But that's for our next deep dive. It's like he hit a wall, right? The thought of killing his family, it just shattered him.
Yeah, it's not a physical battle he's facing, it's an internal one. An existential crisis of sorts.
And this is where Krishna steps in, not as a warrior, but as a guide.
Right. So what does he do? Does he tell Arjuna to toughen up?
Not quite. Krishna takes a more philosophical approach.
Philosophical, how so?
Well, he starts by reminding Arjuna about the Atman, the soul, the eternal essence that resides within each of us.
Oh, okay, the soul. So is he basically saying, hey, death isn't really the end?
Exactly. He's emphasizing the immortality of the soul, the idea that it transcends the physical body. He even compares it to shedding old clothes and putting on new ones. The soul, he says, simply moves from one life to the next.
Reincarnation.
Precisely. It's a core concept in Hindu philosophy. And by reminding Arjuna of this, he's trying to shift his perspective away from the immediacy of death and loss.
I can see how that might bring some comfort. But doesn't it also raise another question?
Shoot.
Well, if the soul is eternal, if death is just a transition, wouldn't that make the war, well, pointless, if everyone's just going to be reborn anyway?
Ah, I see where you're going. That's a sharp point.
Yeah.
And it's a question that Krishna addresses directly.
He does.
Yep. He reminds Arjuna that while the soul may be eternal, our actions in this life have consequences. Every action, he explains, creates karma, a sort of cosmic ripple effect that shapes our future lives.
Okay, so it's not just about being reborn, but about what kind of rebirth you have based on your actions.
Exactly. And this brings us back to the concept of Dharma.
Right. Dharma, duty, righteousness.
Yes. And Krishna argues that it's Arjuna's Dharma, his sacred duty as a warrior, to fight for what is right, even if it means going against his own family.
But how can killing, especially killing your own kin, ever be considered righteous?
That's where things get really interesting. Krishna explains that it's not the act itself that matters, but the intention behind it. He urges Arjuna to act without attachment to the outcome, without personal desire for victory or gain.
To act selflessly.
Precisely. He's talking about nishkama karma, selfless action performed without longing for rewards.
It's like doing what needs to be done, even if it's difficult, without getting caught up in the emotional turmoil.
That's a great way to put it. It's about transcending those personal attachments, acting from a place of duty and understanding. But Krishna knows it's easier said than done, especially in such a fraught situation.
Yeah, how do you detach yourself from the emotions of a battlefield?
Right. So he offers Arjuna some practical advice. He talks about the importance of meditation, of focusing on the divine, as ways to cultivate inner peace and clarity.
Techniques for stilling the mind, for finding that center amidst chaos.
Exactly. And this is where he introduces another key concept, the three gunas.
Gunas.
Yeah. These are like fundamental forces, threads that make up the fabric of existence, and they influence how we think, act, and perceive the world.
Okay, break that down for me. What are these gunas?
Well, there are three: sattva, rajas, and tamas. Think of them as qualities, tendencies. Sattva is associated with purity, wisdom, and harmony. It's that calm, peaceful state of being. Rajas is all about action, passion, and dynamism. It's what drives our ambitions and desires. And then there's tamas. This is the realm of inertia, ignorance, darkness. It's that feeling of being stuck, clouded by confusion and negativity.
So we all have these gunas within us, this mix of light and shadow, so to speak.
Absolutely. And they're constantly interacting, shifting, depending on our choices, our actions.
So where does Arjuna fit into all this?
Well, Krishna is basically suggesting that Arjuna's current distress is a result of being overwhelmed by rajas and tamas.
The turmoil of the battlefield, the grief and doubt, they're pulling him down into that darkness.
Precisely. And by introducing the gunas, Krishna is giving Arjuna a framework for understanding his inner state, a way to analyze why he's feeling this way.
It's like a self-diagnosis tool.
Exactly. And Krishna's advice? Cultivate sattva. Strive for that balance, that clarity of mind.
Easier said than done, right? Especially when you're about to fight a war.
Oh, for sure. But that's the path to liberation, to true freedom from suffering.
So much to unpack with those gunas. It's like they're this hidden code influencing our every move.
Yeah, they're pretty powerful forces. And remember, Krishna's goal isn't to tell Arjuna what to do. It's to help him see more clearly so he can choose his path with awareness.
Okay, but how do these gunas actually impact Arjuna's big dilemma? I mean, he's still facing a war, right?
Well, think about it. Each guna colors how we understand our duty, our dharma.
Oh, I see. So, like, if someone's super driven by rajas, that fiery energy.
Exactly. They might let ambition or desire for reward cloud their judgment.
Their sense of duty might get kind of twisted.
Right. But when sattva is strong, our understanding of dharma, it becomes purer. We act from wisdom, not ego.
So is Krishna saying that Arjuna's distress, all those negative emotions, they're basically tamas taking over?
It's definitely a factor. Krishna reminds him he's a warrior, meant for action. But right now, the grief, the doubt, it's blocking that.
Like a fog over his mind.
Yeah. So Krishna's saying, recognize those gunas at play within you, Arjuna. It's the first step to taking back control.
But recognizing them, that's just the start, isn't it? How does he actually shift towards that sattvic clarity?
That's where the real work begins. It's not just about understanding these concepts intellectually.
It's about putting them into practice.
Exactly. Krishna suggests techniques like meditation, focusing on the divine, things that cultivate inner stillness.
It's almost like a training regimen for the mind.
You could say that. It's about transforming yourself, inside and out, aligning your actions with your highest purpose.
This whole conversation, it's like a roadmap for navigating those tough decisions we all face.
And it reminds us that real change, it comes from within.
Well, this has been quite the journey, wouldn't you say? From the battlefield to the depths of our being.
We've explored the soul, the impact of our actions, the forces that shape our perceptions.
It's amazing how much wisdom is packed into just the first chapter of the Bhagavad Gita.
And it's just the beginning.
We might not know yet what Arjuna decides, but we've learned so much about facing our own inner struggles.
About finding that balance, that clarity amidst chaos.
And ultimately about making choices aligned with our highest purpose. That's a lesson worth pondering.
Absolutely.
So until our next deep dive, remember the lessons of Arjuna's distress. Embrace self-reflection, cultivate that inner peace, and strive to act with wisdom and clarity.
Great advice to carry with us.